it was a really good impression that I got to meet you. You're very nice. When I saw that you had posted something that you were doing interviews, I was like, "Yay, pick me!" So I know you're into strategy, and I like to think that I'm also into strategy, and that's why I wanted to talk to you today about strategy. Like, how did you get into it? What did you like about it, and why do you keep doing it? So,
I think, I didn't know the term strategy aligned with who I was. I was a former electrical engineer that turned into a digital marketer. And along the way, I was like, where do I fit in? What's my identity? Where's my super strength? Where's my superpower? I'm a person that could do a lot of things well with enough time. But it's like, what's the thing that if I only get 5 minutes, I'm out the bed, you got to do this thing. What is that thing? And I'm a problem solver. I'm very calm under pressure. I'm connect patterns. I look at different things and how it ties into everything. And then there was like, you know what, you should try to be a strategist. And I was like, what is a strategist? So what does a strategist do? Like, how do I make money from this thing? How do I what does it matter? And along the way, I went from marketing strategy and eventually elevated, just stacking these blocks up to eventually go into growth strategy, and tying in revenue generating activities through culture and impact and DEIBA
I'm
and all those
hearing
sorts of things.
a double speak.
Oh, I'm echoing.
I think I have other channels open, and I'm closing them now.
Oh,
Many apologies.
oh, you're good. I
Okay,
guess it.
I don't hear anymore.
Okay, cool. I always say it's the boldest people in the world as people go live. You just wing it and you're cool. So not a problem.
Appreciate it.
But I think with strategy and what I've learned being in it now for about 10 years and collectively over like 17-year-ish career, um, is that everyone has a certain threshold where I need help. And if I get help by this window of time, they get another boost to pursue whatever they need to pursue. And I am an empath. I am a giver. I am a recovering people pleaser. So for me, I get more joy in seeing other people have joy, which brings me joy. And so the biggest way to get joy is helping people who have a vision for an event or a business or a product or a service to make money. Who doesn't get more joy just seeing whatever's in their head come to fruition to make money and obviously impact as well. And so that's what I've been doing really is working with brands and startups and small businesses and creators and entrepreneurs, and working with Fortune, 1,000, 5,000 brands to help through like certain projects and things to drive those impacts home.
Nice. So, how did you get started working with brands? Like, what made you go that way?
I think you are the sum of people you know. And the more people that's why it's imperative to go to events because they bring new things to light that you would never even connect the dots in otherwise. I was 19 years old where I worked on a campaign with State Farm and Urban League, National Urban League, as well as the Chicago Urban League, driving emphasis on don't text and drive campaign. Now, I'm 19 years old. I didn't even process the significance of what this impact would be, actually driving, I think, over 200,000 signups of new drivers or soon to be drivers saying they won't text and drive pledge. And obviously that impacts insurance and all those things. And then you go back and you talk and you tell people, hey, I worked with these brands. And you start listing these brands. And you're like, you at 19 years old did something like that? And again, I didn't think much of it then until much later. I was telling a story about, how to get started in marketing, how to stuff. And the person stopped me and said, wait. Write down every brand you've ever was affiliated with, that you ever had a hand in any type of way. And I took the time and I wrote it down and I'm like, okay, I did that one. I did that one. I did that one. And lo and behold, I'm like, wait a minute here. I see some patterns here. And they said, this is how you get ahead. And that's why I go to different schools and different events. And I tell them, if you get the honor and privilege, whether it's free or not, to work with some people to do something, you had a hand in it, you get credit for it. So start learning how to position yourself in that way. So without me knowing, since I was 19. I was working with some brands, and when I finished college and came back to the loop, that's when I realized, oh, I could do these things. And so a lot of my early access to bigger brands was through nonprofits. They were already always connected with different groups, driving new initiatives. So I'm getting firsthand. There's a video on YouTube right now. I cringe at it. There's a YouTube video of me, the 22-year-old me, interviewing state representatives, CEOs of companies, talking about sustainability and environmental friendliness. B Corp was really a thing for most brands. And I had a front seat. And people were not afraid to talk to me. You got this 20-year-old black boy with a little mic and a little camera here. And they got press. And like, oh, you don't seem intimidating. And I'm just asking honest questions. How did you get here? Do you still love what you're doing? Can you tell me how you even got into this business? Like, I'm like, how do you get into these roles? Like, did you wake up one day and you're still going to be a congressman? You're going to be a CEO of a tech company? And, it's a funny story. It's a funny segue, but I always find it's those little increment moments way back when that's going to like be the ripple effect to what you're going to become or what ideas you're going to bring from in the future. And so events, that's where I got my start and where I was exposed to many things. So if you are hesitant to try virtual events, it doesn't cost you money, typically. If anything, it's very minimal. But two, you get a one-on-one experience, especially in the post conversations. You learn how to network. And whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you kind of get an ease into it. You get a set time limit to be a part of it, and then you can take a break. You got to drink some water and just reset. You're not stuck. So I just say, go do events. You never know.
Very nice. I saw you on Twitter when it was Twitter, so I guess it was a while ago. And you were talking about masterminds and how you were able to hang out with like-minded people. And I think I asked you, how do you like the people that you're around? And you said you've grown so much from working with these people. And I'm thinking just what you said before. You work with brands, and you're the sum of all the people you're around. So I'm like, wow. Are you just naturally drawn to successful people or successful brands, or they just naturally gravitate towards you?
I find I have a good former coach of mine, Angus Nelson, once said, he called it out to me. He said, you got a good aura on you. You got a good aura about yourself. And so lean with it. I mean, I'm that person that be in a random, and my wife will tell you this, I'll be at random places and some people just come to me and start talking to me. Do I got a face? Do I got that energy? And I've embraced it at this point. So I've used it as a superpower to make my ass. But as I've grown specifically in my career and what my goals were, I was very intentional about what circles I wanted to get in. And I had to acknowledge, especially as a Black professional, that sometimes we have to be in rooms that maybe we normally wouldn't go into, or we may feel initially uncomfortable with until we get comfortable kind of getting in the door. Because I think the fun thing about once you get to these doors that you never thought you can get in, you can bring people behind you. And that's my joy. I'm like, yo, you need a hookup? You need a connection? I got you. I got you on speed dial. Like, let me help somebody else. That is one of the most power moves ever. I've learned in many ways, it's not about how much money you got, because money can be gained and lost in an instant. A job title can be gained and lost in an instant. I know very well both of those. But when you have good people currency, when you have a good reputable name, people know you, they like you, they trust you, they respect you, and your name and your weight means something, and that takes time. That's when you can really start making things happen, no matter what you've done. I've changed jobs, I've changed industries a plethora of times, and I'm not ashamed of that either. But my community has stayed the same. It has grown and evolved. And to your point, I've gotten more specific in who I want in my inner circles based on what I may need or what I'm trying to pursue, what I'm trying to do. And I find the easiest way to find those people, whether that's through mentorship, whether that's through just picking their brains. Most people are good people. And if you message them with intent, good intentions of like, hey, I found you here. I know you from here. I've read this book you've written, and this page inspired me. I was thinking of this. Would you mind talking with me? Blah, 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 blah. Yes, a lot of people, but more than a lot of people ain't doing it. They just scrolling, and you just made their day getting that message. And he's like, you know what? If you get me on my calendar, because I'm so busy, I will make time for you. And I find that was the easiest way to make connections.
That's very nice, because I'm thinking you do a lot of stuff. You're very busy. Like your books, the podcast, you do a lot of interviews. Like earlier we were talking and saying you don't have your own live stream show because you're doing other people's shows. And I love that. I recently got what was it? Hexomatic list. I asked about a podcast that I could be on for like SaaS companies talk about events. And I've done nothing with it. But I see you and I'm hearing you now, like be I can't even say it now. Have the circle that you want to have, or be in a circle that you want to be in. And I'm like, the word was intentional. I got to be more intentional. Yeah. So my word for the year is make more offers. And I'm hearing you and I'm thinking that I really haven't made more offers, but I have that list and I need to reach out to them. So.
Yeah. It's a game of probability, though I don't like to always think of it like that. I realize a good, honest message from the heart sent out to 2,000 people. And if only 1% of those people responded and wanted to have a conversation with me, that's enough. That's a start. And I think we get intimidated because we think, what are they going to think? You know, what are they going to think about this message and that? When it comes to good intentions, people will respond and you get better at it. It's a form of action. And I remember, I'm going to do this live. Let's see if I can do this live. Because speaking of Twitter, I just tweeted this recently. So it should be real current in my messages. And it struck a chord with me. Just talking about how we move. Oh, here it is. Oh, perfect. I tweeted this on May 16th. People delay action once they know truth. And the interim between knowing and doing is a space where suffering thrives. And that's from 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think book. And this is a hard one for me because many times we know already, it's been revealed what we need to do. And what we get stuck in is that middle ground of not taking action, actually doing, and we waiting for some other crazy signs to let us know this is the way to go. Whoever you believe in, whatever you use by fate, whatever, I need 10 more messages. I need 10 more Instagram videos of inspiration reaffirming this is the way I need to go. I need 10 more LinkedIn thought leaders to reaffirm what I need to go. And by the time it gets 1 week, 1 month, a year gone by, and that idea set is still on all your little sticky post-it notes that you got around here, your notepads full of them, and you're not taking it. See, we're not taking any actions. And I think the difference between people who actually are successful and those who don't is simply incremental action. And it's easier said than done. But I always say, if you can just do that one thing, the most simplest task, and build that habit, you'll get a lot further, a lot faster than you're not. And I think when you think of people I was just part of Innovate Summit. Brian Wallace and Margaret are the founding members of Innovate. It was at Owensboro, Kentucky, and they're talking about how we're going to put this event on like 6 months ago. They asked me to be the MC for the event, and I'm literally watching them going out to different cities, asking come to Owensboro, Kentucky, go to this event. And it was an inaugural event. They've never done it before. And I'm like, for the fact that you actually made this happen, you know how many people would never get an event off the ground, a physical event off the ground, and all the stuff it takes to get. They coordinated with Visit Owensboro sponsors, and they got all these different speakers, well-qualified speakers, all by relationships. And they took the action, they made the ask constantly, and let their community drive the emphasis, drive the people there. And it was a great time. And I got to give them credit because I don't know if I'm a person that will be able to. I've been a part of events, but I've never managed it 100% to drive that home. And to see that happen, it's like, wow. And how you echoed, well, Troy, you did a book, you did a podcast. Those used to be just these. That's all they were. They were just sticky notes. And then one day you start incrementally building it and doing it. And, it's not the Amazon 2-day shipping gratification that we're going to get. It's going to be this long, drawn out thing. We won't even see the fruition of it until after it's passed and gone. And then we're like, wow, but if we just start and we just do, and we surround ourselves with people who can keep us accountable, who can give us access to knowledge, access to funds, and who can help accelerate what we're trying to do, then now we're cooking. Now we're moving things forward,
I like that saying, keep moving forward. So I'm not scared of doing. If you ask me to do something, it would be done today. If I said I'm doing it for myself, I can wait.
I feel that. I feel
It's
that.
like I'm supposed to keep my word, but I don't really keep it for myself. But if for anybody else, it will be done today. Like, I don't really believe in time. You ask me for something, it's going to show up right now, because I feel like all I have is right now. So I try to get things done right now.
I have to treat myself like a client. I really do. Because my default, when something goes wrong, you know how it is. When something happens in life, our default is I'm going to put myself on the back burner because I got a job or family, whatever we need to do, other priorities. But we keep putting ourselves on the back burner. We're going to blink and I'm like, dang, I didn't get nowhere. We got to treat ourselves like a priority in some capacity and hold those boundaries, hold that line so we can start moving that forward. And it is not the easiest thing to do because we have those gaps and we treat ourselves like, well, I can suffer, I can delay. Can we really though? You know, you are just as
Like, do I
worthy to
really
get what you need to
this?
get to.
My husband says it's how much you love yourself and how much you love others. And he's like, you got to show yourself that you love yourself. So if you're willing to take the time to do it for somebody else, you need to take the time to do it for yourself.
All right, husband found me too.
So with all the stuff you do, how did you come up with your podcast and become #1 or get nominated for what's it called? I just had it. A Webby Award. Yes.
Yeah. Oh man. So it's funny. I look back on it now. I probably would have called it a different name for the podcast. Everything's in hindsight. But I digress coming out because I went through a phase where I would say I digress a lot because I'm a man of many ideas and thoughts. And they all connect. I can make them all connect, but there might be some tangents and some detours along the way. And I apologize. But people who are in my circle, they trust me and give me grace and they enjoy the ride. It's going to get to a point at some point. And so when I started the podcast, I was a pandemic baby. I'm proud of it. Still strong. I'm still here, y'all. I'm still here. And I needed something to do. And I said, I wanted to create a podcast that had a Black voice that talked about business. That was unapologetic, that wasn't code switching, that wasn't talking out the way, that made marketing and growth and strategy simple for people. It was for people who don't know marketing or people who, they trying to grow their chef business or they got a product line they're trying to launch or a startup, whatever. I don't know how the marketing works. I don't know how to do sales. And I always find people think just because someone gets to a certain place, that don't mean you don't make it hard. You got to come the same way. I want to make it easier for people. So I was like, I'm going to do this podcast. And I didn't know at the time I chose the hardest way to do it. Solo hosted, so I didn't have any guests. So that triggered a lot of folk because they hear, Troy, I know you, and you doing a podcast, I'll be on your show. And I was like, I'm not having guests on my show. And they're like, the disrespect. I'm like, no, it's not like that. I had a mission. My mission, I literally wrote, again, on one of these post-it notes, I wrote, I want to do 100 episodes with just me. And I wanted to talk about whatever I talked about marketing strategy and business. But ironically enough, as the podcast went along, I started talking about diversity, equity, inclusion. I started talking about my own personal experiences as a professional, observing other people experiences. I want to shine light on women, especially women of color, my Black sisters as well, moving and navigating businesses and how do we be better allies and support and all those different things. And it was almost like a diary of my own self evolution and growth as a man and as a professional, and things like that. And, I kept it under 30 minutes, only me. And I thought that's probably like 50 times I wanted to be like, I'm done with this podcast. It doesn't even matter. And I never forget when I got my first 1,000 downloads for one episode. I couldn't even get to 1,000 downloads a month. I think it took me 5 months to get to 1,000 downloads a month at some point. But I kept going. All of a sudden, it just took off a little bit, slowly but surely. And then Host of Podcast Network brought me in when I got to episode 29. I joined them. And again, with that story, I was in the original. And to give y'all context of like how we may think what we're building is nothing, but if we put in the right perspective, it can be a lot. The Host of Podcast Network they had diversity, but they didn't have, let's put it bluntly a black representation per se. They had one, but it wasn't enough depth, if you put it that way. And so I said, you don't have enough people. And I think my podcast can bring a lot of people of color entrepreneurs to the network, listen to my show, listen to other shows. And I know I can speak a certain way that maybe other people can't, or they don't know how to. Now, I don't have a lot of downloads. I don't got a lot of subscribers, but I think, if you want to put a chance on me, I'm a hard worker. And out of, I think, 800 folk, my little old podcast got to be in the original 8 when they launched the network. And I learned a lot and I did a lot, and I put that energy and effort. And lo and behold, now we're past 100 episodes. We are literally, I think, 200,000 downloads away from 1 million downloads. I got my Webby nomination, I think 2 years ago, and I would have won. If someone didn't pay for ads to drive people to vote. I'm a little petty about it, but it's okay. I know the truth. But again, all of this built with really no ad dollars, just community and just being myself. And I think when we look at perspective, how hard a podcast is or how hard a book is. I told my family I was gonna make a book. Like, oh, that sounds cute, Troy. And then 2 years later, here's my cover, my book. You can buy it on this. That gap was hard. It takes discipline. And I think when you're putting on events where you're trying to launch your own business, your own product line, all the different things, there's that threshold where you're like, this is from a good idea to like, oh, I got to put in real work without seeing the result in the hopes that something happens. And that's what changes a lot of trajectories. And I encourage everyone, when you have something, it's not for you to say to limit what it can be. We put our own limitations on many things. If you put it out there in the world enough times, the right folk gonna be like, you know what? I want more of that. Can I pay for it? Can I sponsor it? Can I work with you on it? We don't know because we're limiting in our small little circle. But if we open the aperture of the circle, a lot of opportunities can happen. So I'm very grateful for everyone in my community who has been there supporting me, because you don't win without other people in your community. You don't win. You can't win by yourself. We don't know anything. We don't know everything. We don't have enough funds. We don't have enough of anything. We need other folk to make anything happen for us. So when you create space and you have a good brand position where people feel, they trust you and they want to support you, it makes it a lot easier.
I believe all of what you just said to be true. Like all of it is true. So now I got to know, do you sell the how do you got to almost having a Webby? How do you get to 2,000 downloads? Yes.
I think so. I've given guidance to some people on it. And I always say, I know a lot of consultants, I'm not a consultant, and this is no shade, but this is just me being honest about the nature of business. As a consultant, I don't sell out of the box. Out of the box is the easiest to do because it's sustainable and you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. You bring new people in, you churn other people out. I just find that boring and mundane. That doesn't work for how my mind works. That's who I am. I like to make everything custom per each experience, per what are you good at? What are you not good at? What are you telling me? What are you not telling me? What's the reality? What's your timelines? All those things are custom to your experiences. And I consider myself more as a guide to help people navigate where they are. And I think even in my years of consulting, I've learned sometimes people will pay for what they want, but then they reverse engineer and want the consultant to do all the work. That's not what we signed up for. I'm here to give you strategic guidance and advocacy and advice and all those different things, maybe some frameworks, maybe some little nuance for systems and strategies, but you still got to do the work too. There's a two-way relationship here. And so my solutions have worked if you're willing to do the work too. And I will hold you accountable. And I've learned as a consultant, I have to do the right filtering to reaffirm you're ready. I will never forget there was something I wanted to do, and this consultant coach guy straight up told me no. And that bro, I had the money. I was ready to go. I was all in. I was lit up. Let me do this thing. He said, you're not ready. You are not ready. And so I think that's a powerful thing to know. When you find the right people in your circle, people you need, when you're willing to pay for something, make sure that you vet them, but also allow them to vet you. Be honest about where you are, because this takes two to maximize the experience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some people I'm just willing to work for because I do not want them. I don't want to feel their disappointment. So I got to make sure I follow through. So I can always feel the, what is it? I want to say happiness of, hey, my student completed their work.
Yeah, I follow.
Yeah. So I get happy with RSS feeds. I've done over 200 shows. I was talking to you about RSS feeds because really simple syndication makes me excited. And every now and then I did do shows by myself. Like if I have a guest that doesn't show up, I go on live by myself, and I'm usually talking about RSS feeds. And my husband tells me, nobody knows what you're talking about. And I was so sad. And then I had a master class. I had a speaker come and talk to us about minimal viable products. And hands down, she did amazing. Shout out to Zakia Ringo. She did amazing. And then I got so many comments praising her about how she did her presentation. And then I got this one comment saying, I have no idea what that is. How will I use a minimal viable product for an event? And I was so sad because right after that event, we had a debrief where everyone said how great she was. And then we had a panel discussion, and they all said they understood. But after I got that comment, I felt like they said, psych, I didn't get it. So, working as a consultant, how do you know that they really truly understand what you're saying? And how do you know you can move forward?
Ooh, that's a great question. You know, part of it is doing your homework, but honestly, you don't know until you're in it. You don't know until you actually have the conversations and the lead-ins. And that's also why I love events too, because it gives me a wide aperture of people to see, what I'm saying, does it land with like majority of people? Like just base level, nothing deep. And then two, was the enunciation, was the presentation, was the stylistics, was it landing? Did I keep people's attention? Did they retain anything at all? Were they mentioning anything about, not even about me, about the event the next day that it was getting credit for it? And then from there, did anyone reach out after? And sometimes I make a call to action at the end of those, but many times I don't. Because I'm almost like, if it's something really landed, and I'm public, baby, I'm all over the place. So it's like I make it easy to get in touch with me some type of way. If you really want to talk, then it's like, ooh, and I tell people all the time, most people really, they get so excited when they get a message. I get excited when I get a mention and like, hey, I saw you this event, let's chat. And I'm like, let's make it happen. It may not happen this week, but let's make it happen. So for me, I think events give me the wide vision of like where I'm going, what makes sense. And then when I get into the meat of it, it's like, okay, I'll leave breadcrumbs and I'll leave small tokens of action. And if I see people start doing those things, then I really know it landed. Like I'll have QR codes. I'll name a specific episode, and I'll just look at my numbers and seeing, like an oldie, like a real old episode of my podcast. But it really matters in the context. If I see a spike in that go up around the same time the event happened and post after, then I know it landed. They took action. They were paying attention, and it wasn't like a hard ask. It was just in there and for your choosing to do. Your choose your own adventure type style. But I think in consulting, when if it lands, if you're trying to push an MVP, I think most people go and judge by how many sales they got or how many one-on-one consultations they booked. I used to be that way, if I'm being honest. I used to think that way, but I always find it was too black and white. There wasn't enough gray area in there. So for me, it was like, did they connect with me on LinkedIn? And are they engaging with my content? It's like a slow burn. I'm not a big email marketing person. I'm traumatized from doing so much email marketing for other people that I haven't done it for myself. And so for me, LinkedIn is like my email marketing breadcrumb type of thing, if you will. And I find just slowly that way just gives me more understanding and knowledge, and I can filter them off better of where my value can be. I do offer a lot of different things, but that's because I'm just multi-potentialite. I'm not going to fit into a bucket and just say, this is the one thing I do forever. This is what people know me for. And then I can't do anything else for the rest of my life. I'm like, no, that's just not how I see the world or how I want to operate. So if you are a creator and a entrepreneur who thinks like me, you're not alone here. The whole struggle of picking one thing and stick with it forever, that ain't my style. I will pick things that complement each other in like the nucleus of what I'm trying to do and expand in that way. But that's what I found has been the easiest way to kind of navigate. But also, lastly, it creates more opportunities. To your point, I may have one MVP. But as I'm talking with other people, it could be as simple as take your MVP and just segment it down to realtors, or segment it down to a very niche industry or type, or a very niche outcome or result. From the same nucleus, you're basically doing the Taco Bell strategy. I got the same 6 ingredients and I'm just monetizing whatever it needs to be for that particular group. But if I only limited it to this one taco I was doing and that's it, not seeing, oh, people just care about this one ingredient. Let me see what I can make with this one ingredient and not just keep adding more things to my menu. But it doesn't exhaust me because I'm using the same ingredient I already have. And I think that's more valuable. And you find that out by just going out into new markets and doing different things. And that's just kind of how it works for me.
Oh, I thought I was still on mute. I'm going to say I love that. I use a Taco Bell analogy about events also. So I always say, we're going to Taco Bell. We're starting from the house. We're going to decide if we're going to eat in or we're going to go through the drive-through. So if we're starting from the house, that's our website, that's our landing page, and we're driving, that's our promotion. If we're going to eat in, you're going to have like an event at that place. If you're going through the drive-through, it's virtual, and you got to know everybody's order. When you left the house, you gotta know what they want, because when you get to the window, you can't change the order. You're gonna see the menu, and you're not gonna be able to ask for anything else once you get to the window, because around here they won't let you ask for anything else that you didn't ask for at the talking box. So at that talking box, I like to say that's where your goals are. You've already written down your goals. That's what you're looking at when you're at the talking box. So when you get to the window, you're not going to be surprised, and you're not going to ask for anything different, because this is what you said you wanted. And we wrote this down. This is how we know that we have won our race. Like, we can run this race blindfolded because we know what we want. So I love that analogy also.
I've never even heard it being explained that way. So I am just sitting here just absorbing this like it's a 5-star meal right now. I'm so excited.
Taco Bell should give us an affiliate.
Come on
Or
now, sponsor, small business
sponsor.
support. Let's
Yes.
go. They got you.
Okay. So we've talked about strategic growth, and now you're having an event coming up on the 7th about community, and it's I can't find the name of it now. I hate when that happens. Conscious growth pathways, how to make a community connected experience. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I have spent a lot of time in psychology and sociology and DEIB, and I've learned, you know, everything is an experience and it's triggered by the mind of how you're navigating. So if you are an event organizer, what's going to make your marketing effective, what's going to drive people to buy tickets, to either travel or get involved for the virtual event, is if you sow a seed of this is relevant to me and I need it now. You know, like JG Webber is my money, I need it now. Like, I need that same kind of emphasis with the event, but how do you create that? Is it the micro experiences? And that could be the certain type of speakers you bring, because they bring a certain community, they bring a certain energy or vibe that you want to convey. And just by proxy, them being a part of it creates an experience people want to have. You know, if you're new to the space and you're trying to drive these things forward, how do we meet at the intersection? But it's not enough to just educate. We're in the world now, people want to be entertained. But on top of that too, and it's my 4 E's: experience, entertainment, education, and empowerment. People want to leave empowered to do something. Can you guarantee that when they pay their money for that ticket and they go through the whole day with you, that by the end of that day, they're not just educated, you know, they're empowered to take action. They've had an experience worth coming back to next year and refer and tell their friends and the coworkers in the community about it. And that's all in the micro experiences. It's all in understanding, how do I present this in the mind that is received in the heart, that they want to say with their mouth and they want to praise with their hands, of like, yo, this is great. I need this. And I think many have great ideas as event organizers. Many have great ideas. And if you're a business trying to drive a webinar and things like that, but what's the experience going to be like? If it's just bland and dry, they can tell in the graphic you design. They can tell in the language that you use. We not we don't give the people we're trying to reach enough credit. COVID changed everything for everybody. And so we went massive virtual. So we've gotten really good at virtual. We got really good at how we're going to be, how we're going to talk, when we're going to talk, if we're going to talk, if it's a one-way situation or not, if we're in different groups and breakout sessions, we come back. We're all in this routine. And so if there are those who are going to be successful from a virtual sense, you got to break the routine. You got to get them somewhere. It's like, man, I was on a Zoom call, but it didn't feel like Zoom at all. I felt like I was having a brunch with some strangers that became friends by the end of the day. That's an experience. And if you're in person, it has to feel like it's meant for me. It has to be designed for me by who you pick, how you market, how you represent. All those components matter. And so if we can talk about conscious growth pathways as the nucleus, as the top tier for how all of this trickle down. I have a lot of frameworks and insights that breaks all of this down, from marketing to sales to the literal experience itself, and how we cultivate all that in the pre-experience, the actual experience itself, and the post-experience to drive, hopefully, revenue generating outcomes for sure, but even more so, people currency. Because when you have an event that drives people currency, that creates people currency and maintains people currency, you're always going to have opportunities to make money. You're always going to have opportunities to make ask. And so I think we need to treat events and see events through a bigger lens than what most people do. And the last thing I'd say on this is that when it comes to an event that you put on, it's not for you. Yes, you may want to make money from it. Yes, you want to, have a success from it. It's for those who show up. So are you doing enough for the people who are basically showing up? And I would argue in most cases we're not, because we may check off education, but we didn't check off entertainment. Or we double down entertainment, but we didn't check off for experience and empowerment. What does that look like? What does that mean? So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to get real deep into it. It's going to be a real fun, real intimate experience. I already got a deck ready to go ahead of time. I got references and links to my book that ties directly to it. And I have real life experience. So it ain't somebody who just been observing. I've been both on the back end side and work with bigger brands who have put on events. I've also been on the front ends, on the front lines as an MC, as a marketer, as a strategist, or a media interviewer on the front end of it. And I've also been on the middle ground side where I'm managing the marketing, the campaigns, trying to help bring in speakers. So I have a good experience in all three phases of it and how you can utilize it as a brand, as a business, a small business entrepreneur, and event organizer as well. So I'm excited. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Okay.
I'm excited too. I am so excited. So don't leave out the repurposing part, because I'm a big fan of not just having an event and leaving it. Let that lead to the next thing. Let that be your promotion for the next thing, because it's not, for me, I like to tell the people I work with, it's not good enough to have one event. That event should tell you to do something else, like go to my next event. And like, here's some clips from that last event to say why you should attend the next one.
100%. Do not miss out on opportunity. You have the most eyes on you at this moment. You better drive in for the next thing. You better be treated like an MCU trailer clip. We're gonna wait till the end of the credits and see what's the next clip for the next video in the sequence now. Like, you really should. That's such a missed opportunity that people do not do. They don't do it. They don't do it. Yeah. It's just as important as putting on the event. I get it. You done the event. You are tired. You ready to turn off everything. Yay. We'll see you next year. You better start putting some segues in there.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, I just wrote about this on LinkedIn today. One of my favorite forms of repurposing is using the clips as a live recap. Having the speakers join you, and then you show a little clip of an event, and they can tell you about their favorite speaker there. So that's one of my favorites.
I had an event one time. I've never experienced this. I'm sure you're familiar, where they interviewed every speaker months before the event happened. And then everyone did their presentations. And then they interviewed them after the event happened. And then they interviewed at least one or two people who talked about each speaker. And then they made a video of watching the person 3 months before, what they said after, and then to the people in between. And it was such a cool thing that they did to just add all this additional value for the speakers, but they connected the dots saying how much work goes involved and what they had. I think one of the questions they asked, what they hoped people would get from the event. And then they interviewed people to tie in what they actually got from the event. And it was just like this whole thing to drive in for new speakers for next year, but also showed the authenticity of the experience of the event. I thought that was just wonderful. And there's just creative ways people do to just humanize the event value. And I just released an episode today about value threads.
Ooh.
And how most times people are like, how do I create value? And we get so stuck in our own perception of our event, of our business, of ourselves, but we're not getting perspective. And perspective is going 50,000 feet up in the air and just acquiring what other people are saying and thinking and tying into that and creating those threads. And the more value threads you have within people, the more tension, the stronger the bonds are, that when you do make an ask, when you do want this thing to happen, it gets easier because you created so many value threads that people trust you and they know you. And they're like, I will do it just because Erica shared it. I will do it because you can get to a certain point. I know people may not believe it's possible with your brand positioning and what you built as a community. Just because you made an ask, people are going to do it. I think it's a powerful thing. A lot of people in the event world, marketing world, business world need to capture that and learn how do I create value threads. And I think at events, you have one nucleus of why they're there. They're all gathered from all walks of life. I better make as many value threads as I can with as many people as I can. And when I leave here, I got a tree with all these branches, because you just never know where your next opportunity or collaboration or partnership or client or whatever it might come from. You just never know.
That's true. Earlier you were talking about giving the education, but not too much of the entertainment part. I feel like I do that when I go on my RSS feed tangent, because it can do so much. So I gotta tell you, I'm kind of lazy and I love automation. The fact that I could set up something one time and let it go and never have to worry about it again until I get an email saying that it needs reconnecting. I don't understand why people aren't so into RSS feeds like I am. Like earlier, we were talking about setting up a YouTube for live stream and then having that RSS feed go to all your podcast channels. Right. So not only does my RSS feed goes to my podcast channels, it also sends out my emails every Monday morning at 9 because I asked it to do so. But I never really thought how I could say that this was entertaining. I just thought it was helping me be lazy, and everybody would want to know how to do this. But some people want to put in the work, I guess.
I don't know. I think sometimes people like to do manual shift. They don't like to do automatic. That's how I always say, but you're going to learn. It's going to be easy. But I think the other thing is they may not connect the dots of how it impacts them in other ways, because they're so stuck on if you look at an IKEA thing and you're like, look at all the steps I got to do to build the thing, versus like, look what you get at the end of the story. Like, oh, okay, I can suffer it. I can learn it or I can pay someone else to do it for me, like you to help me do it. Like, I don't know. I need some help. And I think, that's the joy of figuring out, like, how do I build this thing up as a solopreneur, as a party or army of one? Like AI, automation, machine learning is here to help you do more with less. So you can get more of your time. And if that's not entertaining.
Me and chat right now are best friends.
You like, hey, I did this podcast. I am done. Guess what? The email sent out on Monday. I got this post. I got clips already going to opus.ai already. I got things working and navigating. I'm good. This weekend is mine. That's some power. That is power to that.
So at the end of this talk, it will be clipped up. It will be sent to Missing Letter. Missing Letter will send each video out, and I can get at least 20 videos from an hour talk. It will be sent out 9 times throughout a year.
Wow.
So, we've done this. Why not? Why not let more people know about Troy and what Troy can do with strategy? So I just think that's amazing. That's something that automation can do. And that's another thing that I love about RSS feeds, because it'll be picked up from YouTube.
just dropping breadcrumbs. I hope they eat. I hope they eating good because you dropping gems. You are showing us the way. I'm over here taking notes myself. I'm like, well, Mr. Letter, I'm gonna look into that. Check. All right. Let me evaluate my automation things. Can I do it better? Can I do it cheaper? Can I do it more efficiently? Like, oof.
Yeah, really simple. Really simple syndication has been around for a really long time. And I don't know why people aren't using it. It's not just for signing up for blogs anymore. It's to do stuff for you now.
The people need to know. The people need to know.
Yes. So let people know where they can find you. Like, where's your favorite social media hangout spot?
Well, for the longest time, as you know, formerly known as Twitter, X was my jam, my baby. I lived on it. I was, man, I was whatever. And then, I had that little spur with Clubhouse where I was just like on it 18 hours a day. We're just not going to talk about it. It's over. It was fun while it lasted. Right now, I would say my top channel right now is LinkedIn. But I'm talking about LinkedIn in the background. Like you having them back channels, you having them voice messages and the chats we be having in the DMs, you live in that space, that's where the real conversations are having. And so I have been doubling down, doing more LinkedIn content, but more so I'm just trying to build more relationships in the back end that either leads to what we're doing now, a conversation, a Zoom, something of value, that an exchange of value. How can I help you? So I've been learning how to be what's it called? A connector conductor. I think I learned that from Brian Wallace, but just, some people say super connector, whatever. And I don't mean like I'm trying to get all these followers and all this stuff. I mean, genuinely, you tell me what you're trying to do. And if I know people in my circle that need your service or support, I want to help. And believe me, people, I find as a person of color who has my own issues in navigating certain things that we all can acknowledge from that, it levels the playing field. When you're a go-to person that you can connect people, your name starts to have more weight and value in how you move along those things. So that's something I'm learning. And also I'm learning how to, I won't say teach, but show other people how they can do that too. And I'm not talking about, download my course and book. I'm not doing all that. That's not my jam. That's not my strength. I'll put it that way. That's not my strength. But other people, please do it. Automate it, sell it, make that money. Me, I'm more of a one-on-one, let's get a conversation or group chat. Here's the tea and good luck to you type of vibes. I'm that old school type of person in that way. But there's so much value. So LinkedIn's been my number one jam all the way through and through as of now.
All right. So I love LinkedIn also. My peer group has been telling me I need to do more with relationships. And I've been wondering how I can do that, even though last week I hosted the panel and I asked, people showed up for me. And I'm like, oh, relationships, people showed up for me. So it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, you do have relationships. And yeah. You said superconductor. I want to be a linchpin. So tell everyone where they can find I Digress, and let them know how they can subscribe, or is it Apple, or is it what was it, Spotify, or
I am everywhere. I know people try to drive people to Apple so they can get their rankings up. Look, the podcast isn't the value. Wherever you listen to it, that's your prerogative. I'm just putting it out there for free for people to have that. So I digress, all one word, .fm. If that's too hard, I am literally find Troy everywhere on the internet, and somewhere along the way, I share my posts about I digress and what I'm doing on the podcast. There's 107 episodes as of today, so there is a lot of value. Pick your poison. We talk about marketing strategy, business growth, diversity, equity, inclusion, how to navigate promotion, how to navigate launching a business, go to market, all the things. And from a person of color perspective, if that matters to certain people, it's all there. I have some surprises in some of those episodes as well. And it's been a journey of love of 4 years. So a lot of love, very, very intentional, and everything like that. And then to learn more about me, again, find Troy everywhere on the internet, findtroy.com. If you go to growwithtroy.com, it has every link possible with me and one literal source, if that matters to anybody. But if you need strategy, if you need MC, you need consulting, or we just need a friendly energizer to just boost you today, I'm all about that. Don't sweat. I will join a call with a stranger and we're gonna have a good time. So let's have a conversation and see how I can help you.
Yeah, this has been a really good conversation. You guys, you may not know this. We started late because my tech didn't feel like it. But Troy was very patient with me, and he's been very kind, very generous with his time and knowledge. So, Troy, thank you. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'm excited for next week. Let's go. Let's not forget, people. Sign up for the event. It's going to be a great time.
So Friday on the 7th of June, Troy will be our guest speaker for the Virtual Summiteers peer group, and you are welcome to join us. And if you are on with us live Zoom, that's where you can ask your questions. But if you're watching via the live stream, not so much. So join us live on Zoom.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And we will hopefully see you on Friday.